Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by Under Armour. I am your host, Joe Kuzma. As almost always, or at least as usual, we've been on the same path here for quite some time. That would be my co-host who's joining me once again today, Brian E. Roach. What's up, Mr. E. Roach?
I am snowbound today. I won't call it a lovely day because it's not, but it's a snowy day.
Oh, you got a snow day? That must be fantastic. I don't know what those are. The people down south all have those, and, there's an ice cube on the road. I mean, they're all freaking out, but most of us can chuckle about a few things here. Once again, it is a new year. And one of those things we could chuckle about are all the people in Oregon who are freaking out about pumping their own gas. But you're in New Jersey, so you know what that's like. But you weren't always a New Jerseyan or whatever you would call it. So you're not afraid of spilling gas or pumping your own gas or anything. But it looks like the whole state's going to burn down. That's one of the things. Then there's the snowpocalypse that's hit everything in this country, including Florida. And I wonder how that's going to affect some of these wild card games we're going to talk about, considering the Jacksonville Jaguars are at home and 20% of their seats have been sold to Buffalo Bills fans, or at least people with the New York zip code, because I'm sure there's a lot of displaced Buffalo fans as there are Pittsburgh fans, or anyone that's been through the Rust Belt in this part of the Midwest that has moved on for employment reasons and things of that nature, or just to get out of the cold, which unfortunately they're not escaping right now. But before we get into these four games that are the wild card weekend, discuss who the Steelers might be playing and stuff like that, there's no Steelers game this weekend. It feels very weird, doesn't it?
It feels extremely weird, but at the same time, very good. It's good in the sense that there won't be anything like last year where the Steelers had to play Miami, and that is where Le'Veon Bell hurt his groin. So that's always a plus. But yeah, it does feel like an empty weekend, and I actually have to watch teams and try and figure out who I care about.
It's even more empty or emptier if you happen to be a Cleveland Browns fan, a Baltimore Ravens fan, or a Cincinnati Bengals fan, because they're all sitting at home. They don't have football to look forward to. Well, yeah, they do. They have football. I teased my wife about this. I said, you still have football to look forward to this year. Meaning 2018, it's not going to happen until like August or September, but, they still have football to look forward to. I just had to take the knife and twist it. And you know what? I didn't get to – me and Terry have been on a schedule mismatch here for a few weeks. She's still alive and well, everyone, just so you know. And a WTF that we should add, but I want to thank first all of the listeners for making 2017 great, listeners and website viewers. 2017 was a great year for Steel City Underground, and December was just through the roof, off the charts for everything for us. So we thank you, and we're very appreciative. We also thank Jesse James, Alberto Riveron, and James Harrison for helping facilitate a very good month for us as well. But anyways, the WTF that comes out of this, aside from those other WTFs, normally me and Terry do the WTF show. We talk about all the wacky and bizarre things of the NFL, and I'd be remiss to not thank Mr. Paul Brown for, or no, is it Mike Brown? That's the owner of the
Brown.
Mike Brown. Sorry, Paul Brown's the stadium of which it's named after. They have many things named after Paul Brown. But anyways, Mike Brown, the owner of Cincinnati Bengals, thank you for changing your mind about Marvin Lewis and coming to your senses and allowing him to remain for 2 more years as your head coach and guaranteeing a minimum of 4 victories for the Pittsburgh Steelers against your Cincinnati Bengals.
I tell you, as I tweeted out, there's not a more Browns thing that the Bengals could have done than to re-sign Marvin Lewis for another 2 years. And all of Steelers Nation rejoices.
Well, the Browns kept Hugh Jackson too, who will be working on that win. He's working on Jeff Fisher's record right now for most losses. If he gets the opportunity to hang around for that long, he may get it. Considering he's had one win, there was a meme that I saw not too long ago that had a date marked, and it says number of Star Wars films that have come out since December whatever it was, 3. Number of Browns victories since then, 1. So yeah. It's just wow.
There's one thing I would say to the Cincinnati Bengals, which, clearly they're trying to learn the lesson that the Steelers have been teaching about consistency. The only difference is one of them has been consistently excellent, whereas the other is being consistently mediocre or bad. And consistency's good in some cases, but not so much in others. I just the cataclysm that occurred after that extension was announced was, I think, even here in New Jersey, I heard people in Cincinnati weeping.
I have several friends of mine that are Bengals fans, and about the only thing we could share joy in is Ohio State and the misery that is that university up north that we don't talk about. But it's, oh my God, I can't believe the Marvin Lewis thing. It's just shocking. But we do have some football this weekend. It's not Steelers football, but some things we could look forward to. I'm going to cover the NFC first, since those games don't so much as concern us Steelers fans, but we'll be watching them all because they're not all on at the same time. We have a full weekend of NFL before we get the whatever you want to call the college football championship that's on Monday. So that one doesn't concern me at all. I could really care less about any of the teams involved. But yeah. These ones, we may see one of these teams if the Steelers make it all the way to the promised land. So up first on Saturday from the NFC, their first game is the second game of this wild card weekend. It's at 8:15 Eastern Time. The Atlanta Falcons travel to play the LA Rams, which I'm still trying to get used to saying. The Rams completely turned their season around, as did 8 teams, as we were talking offline earlier. 8 teams this year that made the playoffs that did not make the playoffs last year. It's half of the teams that get, no, more than half of the teams that get in this. There's 6. I'm not even thinking it straight. That's just phenomenal that 8 of the 12 teams weren't in this tournament last year. So Atlanta Falcons, of course, the runner-up last year, losing in the Super Bowl. Do you like their odds against a very young and, bounce-back team in the Los Angeles Rams?
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about the Rams. The Rams are 7-1 on the road. That's a great road record. The problem is that they aren't, they don't have that great of an overall record, and at home, they're 4-4. So if the Falcons are going to have a chance to move forward, this is a good chance for them. The Rams probably were wishing they were going to be on the road. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. But I wouldn't, when you initially look at this, you kind of think to yourself, the Rams, they have a defense that can be dominating. They have an offense that can put up a lot of points. They also have a defense that can make a lot of bonehead mistakes and give up a lot of points. And they have an offense that can sometimes be stagnant. So which Rams team is going to show up? You hesitate to weigh too heavily on the side of a team that is brand new to the playoffs. It's a different thing. There is a potential sense of we're just glad we got here and kind of taking it in. I actually think I'm kind of leaning towards the Falcons in this game.
I'm leaning towards the Falcons too. We made our picks, which are now up on the website for the whole weekend. Atlanta's the one road team that I feel can win. Now I can't honestly think whether or not I took all the home teams or not. I know that's usually been the case for Wild Card weekend, but I like Atlanta here. I might be going against what I picked like a day or so ago, just so we all had them in on time. Because one thing is that you got Sean McVay, a first-year head coach. You've got a lot of players on this team, Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, that do not have playoff experience whatsoever. In fact, the Rams aren't used to winning as a franchise franchise, this is completely brand new to them. I do think they're partially a byproduct within their own division of teams collapsing, such as the Arizona Cardinals, Seattle Seahawks, who are dealing with injuries, Arizona Cardinals, who lost, their quarterback and Carson Palmer. So they're a product of that. They sat players last week. It lost to San Francisco, so you can't look too far into that whatsoever. It's kind of like the Steelers playing the Browns. Only difference is that Landry Goat won his game. I had to throw it in there. I'm still riding my high. But you know what? I like Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin, defensive coach, defensive-minded coach from a defensive background. I will say defense a few more times because the Falcons aren't really too bad at all defensively. And when I really look at this, I look at a few intangibles. Weather, I don't think, is going to be a factor in this game. Atlanta is traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast for a primetime game. It's going to be that would probably be the one that's going to affect them the most because it's an 8:15 game. You tack on those 3 hours, man. For them, it's not so bad. I don't think 8:15 Eastern. I don't know if the Rams have played any primetime games at all this year, so that type of stuff doesn't affect so much as if a team comes from the West Coast traveling to the East Coast. So the start time isn't really a factor for Atlanta, and I like to think that Matt Ryan being in this position a few times, I got to go with the better quarterback and the experienced quarterback in this game.
Yeah, I just can't. I think you're right. I think actually both of us may have taken the home team here and picked the Rams and are rethinking our concepts. But at the same time, I can't remember. I just don't, I just don't know what Rams team will show up. And so that makes me lean towards that better, more experienced team. That even though the Falcons have been wildly underperforming this year, I still kind of think if there's going to be an upset, this might be the one.
Yeah, I have no reason to think otherwise either. And face it, I know Todd Gurley is a monster, but if they force Jared Goff to beat you, if that's the game plan, so to speak, for the Atlanta Falcons, I like that a lot better than, let's say, the Rams shutting down Devontae Freeman, or I don't know if Tevin Coleman is actually healthy yet, or I think did Tevin Coleman go on IR? I can't remember, but the running game for the Falcons is so much is strong. But if you shut that down, I mean, they still have Julio and a few others, Mohamed Sanu, who Steelers fans may remember from the Bengals a few years ago. Taylor Gabriel was from another Browns mistake, and Austin Hooper at tight end. I like their offensive line. I like Alex Mack. I think Falcons have a pretty strong team here. So, Brian, I'm actually trying to find our picks here. I'm going to wait a second because we're going to end up contradicting each other because it's so easy to forget, even with just 4 games on the dock. It's easy to forget all of these things. So we're going to kick over to our other NFC game here. Sunday, the afternoon game also. Yes, Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints, 2 division foes going head-to-head. I think the only guy who, out of our group here, Mike Palaya, who hosts the show that's simulcast here from his Steel Nation Association, he's the only one who felt that the Panthers could go into the Mercedes-Benz Superdome and beat the Saints at home.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I just don't see the Panthers holding down Kamara and Drew Brees together. I think at home the Saints will prove to be too much. But, the thing about it is with these NFC teams, the Saints have shown themselves to be vulnerable. The Panthers are vulnerable. I mean, there is really, as scary as this sounds, without, with when you take Wentz out of the equation for Philadelphia, the team that looks the strongest in the NFC is the Vikings, and that's even with Case Keenum as their quarterback. All the rest of these teams are flawed and can be beaten. So, it won't surprise me if the Panthers pull an upset, but I don't think they will. I still lean towards the Saints. I think That rookie running back has been a true find for them. He's helped Drew Brees extend his career. And the Saints defense, man, the Saints defense has just been much better than anticipated, in large part thanks to a former member of the Ohio State University. I can't remember who it is, though.
Lattimore.
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore. I knew he's from the Bucs. I just couldn't remember his name.
Well,
Marshawn Lattimore, who's done a fantastic job for them.
You could easily get him confused with Malik Hooker because they had two outstanding guys in the secondary, and then not to be confused with Eli Apple, who apparently is more of a head case than anyone would have ever guessed. I mean, they put these guys through the paces in the draft, and it just amazes me that this stuff comes up like way after the fact. So, by the way, also in the loony bin, you did pick the Rams on the official pick'em.
See, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I thought we were contradicting what I did, but
I didn't.
Hey.
I went back and forth on the game. That's the only one I went back and forth on. I got the home team and the rest of them, not to be a big spoiler for the rest of the show. But, I'm with the Saints here, too, for all of the same reasons. And they still have Mark Ingram, too. I mean,
True.
Kamara is a weapon, but they still have Ingram. Drew Brees, been there, done that. They get to play at home. They're a much better home team. They're a fantastic home team. And, they went on, like a 9 game win streak in the middle of this season. They're just very strong. The Panthers are hot and cold. We saw what Cam does under pressure with the Super Bowl a few years ago. And, I like Cam. I think Cam could do it all. I think he's maybe a younger or less experienced version of Ben Roethlisberger. He could extend plays. He's hard to bring down. He may not be as accurate as Ben, but he could throw downfield. He's got a big arm. I just don't see the other weapons there for the Panthers. If this were a shootout, I don't know that they could keep pace with the Saints, even though they have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Greg Olsen, and Jonathan Stewart's capable of ground and pound as well. I don't like the Panthers defense as much. I very much so respect Ron Rivera as a head coach as I do Sean Payton. Both fantastic coaches, and if I pull this up, I'm looking for what the coaches have done here, too. Let's see. I'm still on Atlanta. Atlanta isn't going to get it done for me here. But let me see. Ron Rivera, 7-7 versus the opponent, 3-3 in the playoffs. Sean Payton, 11-13 against them, 6-4 playoff record. And, of course, they just met about a month ago, and the Panthers lost 31-21. That was in New Orleans at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Yeah, like you said, the key for me here, 7-1. That's the Saints' record. I mean, there are 3 teams that were 7-1, or 4 teams maybe that were 7-1 on the road. Or I'm talking about home. Now I'm confused myself on the road. The Saints are 7-1 at home, and that record is just a domination. They have killed people at home. So I just don't expect the Panthers to pull this one off.
No, that's not much more else to say. I mean, they're both 11-5 this year, which is pretty darn good. But I think it's time to hop over to the AFC games. And the first one kicking off this whole wild card weekend, the Tennessee Titans, who are now minus DeMarco Murray, somehow have to go on the road and try to upend the Kansas City Chiefs at an Arrowhead Stadium that is very difficult to win in, but somehow the Steelers have accomplished that a few times. I don't see any type of black and gold feat occurring, even though a former black and gold guy, it is almost, what did we say? We were joking, this is Steelers South with the Tennessee Titans. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Mariota, even though the Chiefs' defense is weak, I think Kansas City walks away with this one.
So do I. 3-5 on the road. The Titans, they're not a good road team. I just can't see them walking into that hostile environment and pulling this off. It is beyond unlikely to me. The Titans they're just not that dynamic of a team. Their defense is mediocre. Their offense is mediocre. And while the Chiefs have had flaws since the beginning of the year, I can't imagine the Titans pulling this upset.
Nope. Once again, I almost like just taking the coaches versus the quarterbacks. And, of course, Mike Mularkey, he is 2-0 as a head coach against the Chiefs, and Andy Reid's 1-6 against the Titans, but they have not faced each other this season. The last time was in 2016, and it was actually, I think, Malarkey may have taken the reins of this team after Ken Wisenhunt got fired. Lots of former Steelers names coming up here and Steelers coaches, but it was a close game. Titans were 19-17, and all-time the all-time series, the Titans have won both meetings. So but in the postseason here, the playoff history, this goes all the way back. They haven't faced each other since 1994 in the playoffs, back when they were the Houston Oilers. So wow. I know it's pretty wild. So all these new teams making it this season, you got some interesting matchups, some new history there, but it looks like it's going to be Derrick Henry as the running back, Marcus Mariota. Like I said, I like to go with coaches. I like to go with quarterbacks. I have to go with Andy Reid here, and I have to go with Alex Smith. Alex Smith sometimes plays it too safe, but I just like that a lot better than what maybe Mariota can have. Mariota kind of disappointed me this season. I think the Titans are still a surprise to have made the playoffs. You could thank Andy Dalton and a few other people for helping the Titans and Bills squeak in here just at the finish line. So on the other side of the ball too, you got Justin Houston and Marcus Peters, who are just huge playmakers and game changers. The Titans have Derek Morgan and Kevin Byard, but I don't know, man. Those names don't stick out to me as much as guys like Justin Houston, Marcus Peters, and then you add in Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. I got to go Chiefs.
Yep, I'm with you 100%.
So our last, and just so everyone is aware here, the last game, of course, is the one we got our eyes on. It's the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Buffalo Bills are the 6th seed. So what that means is if they go into Jacksonville, which we mentioned will be colder than usual, you've got a lot of maybe fans making the trip to a nicer weather stadium, or what it should have been on paper, nice and rosy, a place with swimming pools that might have ice in them. It just seems to me that maybe the Jaguars don't even have the fan base that's possible to make this much of a home field advantage. But if Buffalo were to pull off what is an upset because they're a lower seed, the Steelers aren't going to see them. They're going to go to New England. They're going to go up to Foxborough and play the Patriots, because the Patriots will play the lowest seed that comes out of this. So the three potential scenarios, of course, are the Chiefs, Titans, and Jaguars. Now, if it's the Jaguars who beat Buffalo, it won't matter. The Jaguars will be the highest seed at number 3, and they're coming to Heinz Field for a return match that Ben Roethlisberger wants to avenge his 5-interception game from Week 5 of the regular season. If the Bills do win, then you got to keep your eye on the Titans and Chiefs, because the winner of that game would be the one. So we'll already know who will have won that game by the time you get to it, because that's the Saturday game. This is the Sunday game, and there is a chance Buffalo could pull this off. Now, I talked about coaches and I talked about quarterbacks, and geez, it just all bets are off here, because you've got Tyrod Taylor against Blake Bortles. Tyrod Taylor this season, 89.2 QB rating. You have Blake Bortles at 84.7, and he's thrown 13 picks. Neither of these coaches has any playoff experience. I just have to go with the team that's the home team that's had the better regular season, and I picked Jacksonville for this one.
Yeah, I'm going against all odds here, and I'll tell you why. I think when you look at it directly, Jacksonville's defense is much better than Buffalo's defense. Calais Campbell is having a year and a half. You got guys like Jalen Ramsey in the secondary who are playing out of their mind, and others as well. But on the offensive side of the ball, I still think the edge probably goes to Jacksonville, because I'll say I think Fournette may be better than Shady, but Blake Bortles stinks, and and I just don't know which Blake Bortles is going to show up. Is it the Blake Bortles who helped them put up 40 points against the Ravens, or is it the Blake Bortles who last week turned back into Blake Bortles that we all know against the Titans and has lost them 2 games in a row?
He turned into a pumpkin at midnight.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't know. So I'm going, and I'm more encouraged about my pick right now because Shady McCoy was practicing today. And, you know, because if they don't have Shady, they've got no chance in this game, in my opinion. But I am going Bills, man. Bills Mafia all the way. Bills. And then they go back to New England and get revenge on Al Riveron, man.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, I don't see truthfully, if the Bills go and win down in Jacksonville, I don't know how they go on the road with a banged-up Shady McCoy already, LaShawn McCoy, and then beat the Patriots. I mean, that's pretty much how they had to beat the Patriots. But they showed signs of life in that game up in New England. They were capable of it. And, you know, there's a short period of time, and you got to be thinking fresh in your head, geez, this team could have beat me, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you know, if it gets out of control, then New England just walks into the AFC title game. Whereas if New England has to play, I'm not going to say Tennessee, but I don't know, depending on what Tennessee can generate against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs are capable, and they've already gone to Foxborough and won. So I'm still maintaining, even though Baltimore didn't make it, I thought Baltimore matched up a lot better with New England. If you could have taken a wild card team, the pick to go up to New England and beat the Patriots at home, the Houston Texans nearly did it with Brock Osweiler. They don't have Brock Osweiler. They do that last year. Maybe the Steelers make the Super Bowl, all depending. So I don't know, man.
To be fair, the Texans went up there and beat them this year, except for Al Riveron.
Oh, man. You know, and what's the constant in all of this? Jesse James touchdown, the Al Riveron thing there. You had the Al Riveron thing with the Austin Seferian-Jenkins Jets TD turn. Man, I'm telling you, they should not be the 1 seed. It's driving me crazy. And it also drives me crazy the Steelers lost on the road. One of your predictions was they were going to sweep the NFC North for this season.
Yeah.
You got most of them. They almost set the scoring for the franchise. They were high up there. But, you know, sweeping the NFC, an overtime, it was an ugly game, and it went to overtime, and they still had a chance. And like I said, you know, you take that whole play with Chris Boswell and the blocked field goal and swinging back and giving the Bears 3 more points. If that field goal, if there isn't a missed assignment on special teams, the Steelers are the 1 seed right now. And then we're just talking about, hey, who's going to make it through to who you bring in the Heinz Field, you know what I mean? So, which of these teams do you feel best playing against at Heinz Field the following weekend?
Well, I'll tell you, the only one that makes me nervous in the entire field, and I'm including the Patriots in that, by the way, the only team that I think truly makes me nervous because they, in some ways, are us, is Jacksonville. And the only reason they make me nervous is their defense. You know, I think we can win. I think we will win. I don't think there's any way Ben has the kind of game he had against them the first time around. And I do think our defense will play solid, but there is a difference. This is now a defense that has been more susceptible to the rush without Ryan Shazier. And take away the long Fournette run from the first game, he still had 91 yards. So there's some reason to be concerned about the Jacksonville Jaguars coming in. Am I really concerned? No. For the same reason that I'm now picking the Bills to beat them, it's still new to them. They're just, you know, naive about the playoffs. They don't know what to expect. They don't have that preparation, and they don't have that veteran leadership on this team really to help them grow into this and understand the enormity of what's going on. So I don't anticipate the Jags coming and beating us. All things equal, I'd rather play the Titans.
Yeah, we've seen what happened. And this is interesting because the Steelers have played all these teams that are going to, you know, Buffalo can't come to Pittsburgh because of the way the seeding is. So when you look at this and you say, well, what did the Steelers do against the Chiefs? Well, recently they beat them on the road, but now they have them at home. What happened when they played them at home? The previous year, they blew them out. They blew out the Tennessee Titans on Thursday Night Football. So the only one that's the bugaboo here, the mulligan that you want back off the schedule, is the Jaguars. And I think if the Steelers Ben throws 2 pick sixes in that game. I was getting in an argument with my cousin, hello Brad, over this whole thing, and I said, you know what? They don't scare me. Those 2 pick sixes. That's just Fournette had 90 yards on a run when the game was already over, and they're just that's the game planning. Ben was forced to throw. If you put the Jaguars in the same situation, even in this game against Buffalo, I don't know that Buffalo could score points with a banged up Shady McCoy and Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback. It's possible. I'm not going to count on it necessarily. But if Buffalo gets ahead, 10, 14, 13, 14, 16 points in this game, they need to start having Blake Bortles throw the ball. And he doesn't have Allen Robinson. Not that he was hitting Allen Robinson when Allen Robinson was healthy. I don't know. D.D. Westbrook, Allen Hurns, who's been banged up as well. Marquise Lee, who's on the injury report for them. Their receivers don't even look that scary on paper. What they have? Is it Matt O'Shaughnessy is the one tight end, and you have the other guy Mercedes Lewis, who's been there for ages, and none of that terrifies me, especially with Blake Bortles. It's basically Fournette or bust, and they really have to ride that defense and keep it close to their vest, or else their game plan is shot, and they're not built for a shootout, whereas the Steelers are. The Chiefs' defense doesn't seem too strong to me, nor the Titans. I'm not worried about any of these teams. I guess I would say if Jacksonville can play their game with strong defense and just running the football, it might turn out to be a game at Heinz Field, much like when the Baltimore Ravens came to town. But for as much as I make fun of Joe Flacco for not being elite, he is I will take him 10 times out of 10 every day of the week, 3 times on Sunday over Blake Bortles.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. I am stunned that Blake Bortles is still, their go-to guy. I think early in the season when they were getting ready to do the draft, we all expected them to take a quarterback again. But even trying to extend him out and whatnot, he's just not that good. And it'll be interesting to see how this weekend plays out. And I do want to say there is one way the Bills come to Pittsburgh, which is they do what I said and they go to New England and win. Then you've got your AFC Championship game where it should have been all along in the Steel City.
I would very much like that. And I have one closing thought here, and this is an interesting one I think you'll enjoy as well. Cam Hayward. Did you see what he did to Juju Smith-Schuster by any chance?
I did. O-H.
I-O. For those not on the inside joke there, Cam went to the Ohio State University, of which me and Brian are fans of, and they beat Juju's alma mater, USC. There must have been a bet because Cam has a photo up on his Instagram of Juju wearing an OSU shirt. So I absolutely thought that was great. Juju, what a great sport he is. But I'm looking forward to seeing who the Steelers' opponent's going to be, and I guess all we can do is just wait, and we'll have more to say about that in the coming week after this wild card weekend is complete. Thanks again, Brian, for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It does kind of feel like the band's back together. Schedules aligned, the stars aligned, and it snowed.
Yeah, snow always helps. So if it's snowing where you guys are, folks, just take it easy out there. I don't kid around when I say be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.